Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And as soon as you log in to World of Tanks 2.0, you will have 15,000 bonds on your account if you are a veteran player. And so a lot of you have been asking me, hey Uncle Scrubby Baby, what should I spend my bonds on? Well, now I'm going to do a review of everything that's inside the bond store and also an announcement. And the announcement is that starting from 9 AM on the 3rd of September, so Asia server, you don't currently have access to this even though you have 2.0, Wargaming will be extending the bond store, also adding the Tiger Mouse, the SU-130 PM, the CS-52 LIS, the IS-2, the M4A1 FL-10, and also the Turan 3 Prototype Push. And I hope I'm getting my pronunciation right for all of my Hungarian viewers out there. There'll also be 3 cosmetics for the Type 5 Heavy, CS-52 LIS, and the SU-130 PM going in for a smaller amount of bonds. So keep this in mind. So firstly, I want to answer the question, what is the best way to spend bonds in World of Tanks, just very quickly? Well, it depends on how set up your account is. Personally, for me, if I had a brand new account, what I would do is try to get 2 to 3 Tier 8 or Tier 9 premium tanks as quickly as possible, because that is the best way to make credits inside World of Tanks. Play Tier 8 or Tier 9 premium tanks, hopefully without using too many premium consumables, hopefully without spamming too much gold. That is the way to make credits inside the game. Now, why 2 to 3? You might be asking. Well, you want 2 to 3 because you probably don't want to sit there and wait for the battle to end if you're grinding credits. And if you're kind of dying more than 3 times and you've got 3 tanks locked in battle, maybe it's your play and not actually the vehicles that are causing the issues, right? But I digress. So firstly, if you want to know what the best premium tanks are, I release a tier list every year, so go and check out my tier list that I released last December. There are a few new ones since then, and I guess you're going to have to wait about 3 months before I release another one. Now, obviously, the best premium tanks are usually the ones that Wargaming don't sell. So the ones that are inside the bond store, they are a lower class, although that's my job today, to let you know whether they're going to be worth it. Now, after you've got yourself 2 or 3 premium tanks at Tier 8 or Tier 9, the other way to spend bonds is probably to either collect the Tier 10 reward vehicles, or which I'm going to be reviewing today as well, or alternatively, you could instead get bond equipment to make maybe your Tier 8 or Tier 9 premium tanks the best that they could be. That's probably the way that I would suggest it, rather than getting the reward vehicles. But, you know, maybe making your tanks that you already have slightly better is not exciting, and having fun inside the game is important. And so maybe you should blow that 15,000 bonds on one of these vehicles. So without further ado, I'm going to review everything that is inside the bond store. So firstly, the M60. I really like this tank. It's not great, but the gun feels amazing. And with 350 millimeters of heat pen, I just always feel like I surprise myself in this vehicle. It's got a horrible cupola. It's probably got the worst camo rating of any Tier 10 medium in the game. But you can, and its armor isn't incredible, that's for sure. But it's enough to absorb some HE shells, and it's enough to be able to pull off some ricochets. But because the gun on this thing is so good, I'm just constantly, hopefully, out pumping my opponents on damage. I like the M60, but remember, I'm clarifying, it's not a good tank. But for me, at least, it's fun to play. The Object 268 version 5, this is a flexible all-rounder kind of Tier 10 tank destroyer. It has really good HE shells with 90 millimeters of pen and 1100 alpha. And it has really good heat shells with 395 millimeters of pen. And I believe its AP shells have something like 303. So it's a really good vehicle for intuition and pumping out a variety of rounds. The problem with this vehicle is its armor is just negligible, and I think that there are better tanks, especially like a DBV for you to get your hands on, but you can't buy a DBV for 15,000 bonds. So the 113 Beijing Opera, this is actually quite a good tank for playing maneuvers, or quite a competitive vehicle for just rushing in and being aggressive as part of a wolf pack. However, for the random queue, man, I think its time is done, especially with the VZ55 getting a big alpha damage buff on its single shotgun. You'd be best to probably go play that tank rather than play a vehicle with 90 less alpha damage. I think the 113 and the 113 Beijing Opera definitely need a little bit of love inside World of Tanks, but whether Wargaming are actually going to buff this vehicle, even if they buff the 113, that remains to be seen, because they've just buffed the T-57 Heavy without buffing the Stinger. Bit of a weird world that we live in, but maybe Wargaming have got plans, and I digress, that would be for a different video altogether. Next up, the 121 B, I think this is probably the best of the tier 10 reward vehicles that you can pick from this list. It's a very good vehicle. Again, same great heat as the M60, great HE as well. It's just a solid vehicle. The problem is, it's a little boring. And also, the Object 140, which, it's very similar to this tank. And the 140 just got buffed significantly. So I'd rather play a 140 than play a 121B. But still, the 121B, it's an okay vehicle. Its gun handling isn't great. The gun doesn't feel amazing like the M60, but it makes up for it with some pretty darn good protection and way better camo than you would do on the M60. Next, the FV215B183. This is your speed run to get the Death Star, right? The biggest gun, highest alpha damage in the game at 1,750. You could take that 15,000 bonds and instantly have this, and then load 8,000 credits worth of gold and do 1,750 damage to someone if you're able to penetrate the shell. The thing is this vehicle is just not flexible like the FV4005 is, and so I think the FV405 will do better when armor is not needed. I'd say the FV215B183 will do better in a really nice matchup against tier 8 and tier 9 tanks because its armor can actually work against them. But when you're playing against tier 10 and inevitably tier 11, I'd say I'd probably rather play in the FV405. I'd say this one is better, all in all, than the FV405, as armor is king inside World of Tanks. And it's a fun way to blow 15,000 bonds, but considering you get the same kind of vibe and playstyle from just getting the FV405, up to you whether you want this vehicle. Foch 155. This one is a bad Foch B with better penetration and alpha. This is for the player who really wants to just connect that first shot and maybe wants to play slightly more mid to long range, but you still have to make close quarters combat plays in the Foch 155, but not nearly so much as you do in a Foch B. I'd rather play a Foch B personally than the Foch 155. I love locking my opponent's tracks down, and I'd rather have a 2-second intra-clip reload with 400 alpha than having a 5-second intra-clip reload with 750. Next up, the FV215B. I strongly recommend that you avoid this tank. It's cheaper than the other vehicles for a reason. I do not like the FV215B. It's a very good glass cannon heavy tank for when you don't need armor and you just need to pump out damage, but newsflash, you could just go play a medium tank if you want that. And now that there are tier 11s in the game that are going to be way more damage pumping than this vehicle is, it's kind of lost the crown as the highest damage per minute heavy tank kind of in the game. Even less reason to play it. And now that Wargaming are adding in the armor flashlight, oh my word, this thing's weak points are going to be very obvious for players as soon as they turn it on and look at the side. Next up, the 114. This vehicle is actually getting buffed. The 114 is receiving massive improvements to its gun handling when it's moving, when it's turning, and it's also losing nearly a second off its aim time, and its dispersion on the turret traverse as well being halved. So you probably can drop Snapshot on this vehicle now finally, and maybe even change the field mod from improving the aim time to improving the accuracy on this tank. Big buffs to this vehicle. This maybe isn't a hot take. I've always thought this vehicle was pretty good, even before the buffs. Not incredible, but good. Why? Because it's a tank for somebody who just wants to last in a situation. It has literally tier 10 hit points down at tier 9. Get yourself a durability device on this vehicle, and I always just seem to do a consistent 2,000 to 3,000 damage in this vehicle. Now, a lot of you might be saying, oh, that's not much, you know, I've got my my Medviet or my 752, and I pumped that out in the first 2 minutes of the game, Mr. QB. Yeah, but the 114, it's good for all players. Everyone will do well by just having good armor and, importantly, a huge amount of hit points to forgive the mistakes that you make. I think it's a decent tank, and now that Wargaming are buffing the tier 9 credit potential, I think this is probably the best premium pick, in my opinion, inside the Bond store. It might not make you the most competitive tank, but as long as you're not whiffing those gold rounds, you set it up correctly, get some good equipment on it, and I think this is a very underrated heavy tank that will be suitable for all players. Probably not for the best players. I think the best players will do better with a tank that actually has some damage per minute, right? Next up, the Chieftain T95. There's no other way to say this. Avoid this like the plague. You know that this is the Chieftain from Wish.com if Wargaming make it available for everyone for 10,000 bonds, right? You think of the other two Chieftains in the game, the Clan Wars Reward Chieftain and now the Chieftain that went in the tier 3 loot boxes. Those two are very sought after vehicles. The Chieftain slash T95, no, relegated to nobody wanting to play it. You hardly ever see it in the matchups. It's got horrible penetration on its standard rounds. It's got an awful weak point and horrible penetration on its gold rounds as well. This is an absolute stinker. And I'm absolutely bewildered that Wargaming didn't buff this one in 2.0. Don't get this tank. Trust me, guys, you'll regret it. You are not going to enjoy this Chieftain. Next up, the IS-5. This is a vehicle that Wargaming just keep buffing, and it's still just, it just feels meh to play. I think it's a combination of the whiffy gun, and even with its 7 degrees of gun depression, it's just not a fun playstyle. It will never be an IS-7 down at tier 8, unless Wargaming give it a really outrageous power-to-weight ratio. The IS-5, it's still a decent tank, but it's never one that I would recommend because the gun just feels so horrible on it. But it's still just a solid vehicle. It's not awful. It's not an avoid, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's only for advanced players who will set it up to rush into certain positions and then use that 7 degrees of gun depression and good upper hull and turret armor to abuse their opponents and hopefully have nerves of steel for being able to keep calm while the gun just destroys your mental. Next up, KV-4 Kraslavsky. This vehicle, I hated it until I realized that you should just play it stupid. Okay, I take a dumb build on this tank. I take something like durability, bounty protection technology, a turbo, and then I drop the repair kit on this tank. Sounds weird. Use a med kit and fuel or something. No, I probably use like fuel and a premium consumable, and I just want to go get stuck in, try and charge my opponents down and try and ram them. And as soon as I started to play this thing like it was a juggernaut that wants to ram and just tries to use its armor to enable its allies to do damage and be the tank and the juggernaut, I actually started to do well in this vehicle, and I had more fun than I usually would do. But still, I don't think you should get this one, especially considering there's another vehicle down the list that you can get for cheaper that probably has that kind of playstyle mastered, right? Next up, 252U. This is a great pick for 9,000 bonds. I think it's one of the best picks that you can get inside the store. It's got 440 alpha, really good frontal armor, and it's kind of idiot-proof. Just angle the armor a little bit, bounce loads of players. If you get into a nice matchup, you are overpowered. And if you get into a nasty matchup, you can still put in many shots before you go down. It's a really annoying tank to play against when the person knows how to use the armor. But even if you don't know how to use the armor, there will be scenarios where your opponents still feel helpless anyway. Now, the M4Y. This vehicle, it's a funny one. It's like a Renegade that loses some of its firepower to be able to gain the extra mobility from the reserve track. I still just think that the reserve track mechanic doesn't have the impact that Wargaming thought it would. And this vehicle with its weak point on top, even though it has a solid turret, especially when using its gun depression, I can't recommend this tank. It's not terrible, but it's just nothing that I would ever recommend. Next up, the Guard. I actually like this vehicle. I think it's pretty good. With a fully traversable turret, 390 alpha damage, and it's really accurate for the 122mm. This vehicle is just a consistent Soviet sniper. You know, not many Soviet tanks are snipers, but this one's a bit of a, like a genre blender of a vehicle. Get yourself some camo rating on this vehicle, get yourself sneaky, maybe even have some kind of funky build where you just focus on like an exhaust vision system and coated optics for some scouting. You can do some really funky stuff in the Guard. This one will be great for the awful players who want to just kind of like sit and snipe and not get involved. And I think that great players would probably do better elsewhere, but I still think that everyone should be able to do very well in this tank. Next up, T103. This is comfortable, it's convenient, it's got armor, it's a very strong tank. This is a very underrated vehicle, the T103, and I think that it's probably going to be better for most situations than the SU-130 PM that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But it does have worse alpha damage, you know? The T103, it's just a solid pick. You see so many of these. Great standard pen, great gold pen with AP. It's a decent tank. You can't go wrong with this vehicle. But again, it's not the most sexy tank. It really isn't. There's no other way to say it. It's big, it's a brute, it's a bit dumb, but you know what? It gets the job done. Next up, IS-6 Black Edition. So this one has preferential matchmaking, so you'll never have to meet tier 10s. But now that Wargaming have made it so most of the matchmaking is +0 -0 or +1 -1, does that even really matter? Not really. I can't ever recommend getting an IS-6 Black Edition rather than getting a 252U for 1,000 bonds more. So just go play some tier 10s, play some tier 9 premiums, and get yourself the 252U and not the IS-6 Black Edition. Next up, the Black Dog, the M4190. It's not bad, but it's not good. I wouldn't recommend this vehicle. You do better to go get an ELC even 90 for a low price of like 4,000 gold or something than you would to play this tank. It has got some teeth. This Bulldog can bite, but the problem is that when you end up in those matchups against the most popular tier 8 premium, which I think is the ELC even 90, you're just going to be so annoyed sitting there static and unable to be able to dig them out of their campy position. Next up, KV5. I really like this tank. It's big, it's dumb, it's tons of fun. 100 tons of fun to be exact. Get yourself a durability, get yourself a turbo, and then choose maybe something like a bounty protection technology so you can drop the repair kit on this tank and just go rush in. Ram anything you can. It's got really cheap ammunition as well, and it's got a really high, it feels like it's got a high credit and experience coefficient, meaning that it feels like it's almost impossible to actually lose credits playing this vehicle, although I'm not challenging you. Honestly, with the KV5, I think most people's problems when they don't do well with the vehicle is they're just trying too hard. This is meant to be a big, stupid tank, and the harder you try, most likely the worse you're going to do. Next up, the Ripper pattern. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. This is a horrible vehicle in every sense of the word. Do not buy this tank. Big waste of bonds. You might as well burn them. Don't get it. Senlac. This is an interesting choice. You could... The problem with this vehicle, again, is that when you end up against like an ELC even 90, you're going to just so struggle on your scouting capability. This vehicle is a... I always look at it and I think it's going to be a really fun one to play because it has great HE ammunition, and I love using the right round for the job to be able to pump up my damage per minute. But whenever I've played it, it just ends up with its low alpha damage of being more annoying than actually useful. But it's not bad. It's not bad. Don't let me detract you. But if you think like, I'm going to go and have the British light tank playstyle of having that really, really, really good scouting capability, you'll be disappointed with this rather large light tank. Next up, the Chrysler. This is a very solid vehicle. Incredibly solid. The only thing that sucks is the standard pen is a little weak, so you end up having to fire a lot of gold to be competitive in this vehicle. But if you want to play a premium tank to go and train some crew, or maybe just break even while spamming gold and being very strong, this is a great tank. It's only really good on maps where it gets to side scrape, but as long as you're a little bit creative, you can find lots of side scraping positions on most maps inside the game. Next up, the Patriot. This vehicle used to be the epitome of pay to win inside the game. It was basically just a T-32 that was just clearly better. However, since then, even though the Patriot has been buffed, the T-32 feels like it's in a good position. I'd prefer playing like a T-832, honestly. Now you've got an Iron Arnie as well that you could play. But the Patriot, not bad, but not great. Solid pick. If you absolutely love having like an eagle swooping down on the side of your vehicle, go for it. It's a positively decent tank to play. Next up, the M41D. I think this is the Taiwanese Bulldog. It's a light tank, guys. It's a bit like a Senlac in a way. You know, you're quite large. You don't have the camo rating to be that proficient scout that you really want to be. And it just feels a little bit awkward because of that. The really low alpha damage really holds it back. And honestly, you kind of just question, why wouldn't you want to go play something like an LT432 if you could get your hands on it? Next up, the AMX M449. I think this is a very solid pick. Very underrated tank. Great, accurate gun. Incredible frontal armor that's so easy to play. Such an easy tank to play. If you get yourself in an all tier 8 matchup or playing against 6s and 7s, you can literally just angle your armor slightly and then try and bait them into shooting the wing of the tank, so to say, right here on the tank's model. And just keep your weak point on top moving, hopefully using some of your gun depression on a ridgeline. And this is a solid tank. If you play against a BZ176 in this vehicle, they literally can't pen you if they don't hit your weak point on top. And you can still go through them quite reliably. So, funnily enough, I'd say this vehicle in a 1v1 is probably going to beat the BZ176 most of the time. Next up, the Lorraine. It's a good tank, especially for a great player to an incredible player. Those players will make good trades. However, terrible players will make bad trades in the Lorraine. Really bad trades. I've seen so many Lorraines just drive in and think, oh, I hold down my mouse button, I've done 900 damage, GG, next game. And you know what? They're probably making credits. So who's like the bigger loser? Me sweating and tryharding, playing a game for 10 minutes to do my like 2,000-3,000 damage in my tier 8s? Or that guy who's gone in and in the first like 30-40 seconds, he's done his 900 damage. He's probably got half the credits that I'm going to make anyway. And he's off played another 3 games while I'm still in my first one. Different play styles for different methods. I'm not going to judge you. If you want to get the Lorraine and have that kind of like hold your mouse button down against the first target and deliver the mag, go for it. Next up, the T-34-3. I still don't like this tank. It has preferential matchmaking, I believe, and it's got 390 alpha. Very nice, right? And now it's got gun depression that initially didn't have. But still just a tank which I can never really recommend that people get. The gun annoys me, and I think that now that the preferential matchmaking is just so much more useless than it previously was, I'm looking down on its brother here, the 122 TM, and I'd forget this for the same price. Next up, the Panzer 58 Mutz. This thing is getting a big old buff next patch. I think it's just getting like it's going to 300 alpha damage instead of 250, and also increasing its top speed. I think this will be a solid pick. It's not a great tank, but it does feel as if Wargaming are trying to make it a bit like a tier 8 Leopard. I still don't recommend it, but it's not a bad tank. Okay, guys? It's not a bad tank. You will do pretty well in a Mutz if you play well, and if you don't, you're going to do pretty bad. But I think the real problem with this vehicle is a glass cannon, and it just doesn't have the armor to influence the battle like some of the other tier 8 premium mediums can. Next up, the Alpine Tiger. Also, another vehicle that's getting a buff. Half a second off its reload. I think a little bit of engine power as far as I can remember, and some dispersion values, aim time, that kind of stuff. So it's just all around going to be better. I think it'll probably be better than the 112 now. Up until this point, I would always recommend people play the 112 instead of the 111 or the Alpine Tiger. But now, this is probably the better vehicle. So you just got to decide whether you really want to have that preferential matchmaking and whether it means anything in World of Tanks 2.0. I think it's a solid vehicle, but just nothing really to write home about. 390 alpha damage, no, so like some weaknesses on the lower plate, not a really exciting gun, has to fire quite a lot of gold to be competitive in the game now. I think there are better tanks to spend your bonds on, like this one, 122 TM. Okay, ladies and gents, this is probably the best thing you can buy in the bond store if you need a tier 8 premium. In my opinion, for all players. If you're an incredible player, you'll do well in this tank. You'll get frustrated about the rate of fire, but you'll still do well because the gun is reliable and the armor is also very strong indeed. And if you're a very, very casual player, you'll do well in this tank because your armor, it will get you out of a lot of troubles, and your gun is reliable. The biggest recommendation I have for this vehicle, and again, this is a controversial opinion, is just drop the gun rammer. The rate of fire is so bad that it doesn't really matter if you have kind of like 1,600 DPM or if you've got like 1,700 DPM. Focus on other aspects of the tank that would be able to benefit its playstyle. Personally, for me, that's going to be coated optics, vert stabs, and then either a turbo to speed it up or get some vents on this thing. And you'll be improving the other aspects of the tank which actually make the difference, rather than trying to boost up the worst aspect of the tank. I end up packing like high 60 or 70% win ratio in this vehicle on, I believe, both of my accounts, my free-to-play and my main. It's just a very, very strong vehicle, very solid, and it would be my top pick for spending your bonds for pretty much everyone if you're looking for a premium tank, a tier 8 premium. Next up, the T-23 E3. This should be a tier 7 Comet. However, now that the Comet is being buffed, the Comet is going to destroy this thing. The T-23 E3, it's an alright tank, guys. It's nothing special. The problem with this vehicle is low pen, and while it has a great rate of fire, you have to spam a lot of gold to be competitive. So this thing, it's not in the bond store to make you a lot of credits. This is in the bond store as some kind of like pseudo-funky collector's tank. And because of that, I'd recommend this one is for the professionals. Next up, Type 62. It's a great light. It's a great light. You just got to question whether you want to be playing a light tank at tier 7 where you don't have an exhaust, you don't have the vision system, and you'll quite often get up into matchups where you are playing against light tanks where they do have an exhaust and they have a vision system, which can be a very awkward scenario there. but it's a decent vehicle. You really can't go wrong with it. It's probably one of the stronger picks inside the Bond store. It's just whether you want to focus on it. Next up, the IS-2S. Just put some spaced armor on an IS, then it's awesome, right? It's not bad, but do you want to play it tier 7 heavy? It's really interesting to me. The credits that you get in World of Tanks just go down so much from where, like, next patch, tier 9 will be here, tier 8 will be here, 7, 6, all of this. So why would you want to spend 6,000 bonds on a tier 7 when you could spend 8,000 bonds on a tier 8, in my opinion? Or maybe, you know, you could even spend your 10,000 bonds, your 11,000 bonds on a tier 9 premium. You could make more bonds just by playing the tank in the first place. It's hard for me to justify the 6,000 price tag. If you want to get it, go for it. You know you, and playing at tier 7 will probably be a lot more comfortable than at tier 8. Tiger 131, beautiful, fantastic, awesome tank. Very strong, very powerful for tier 6. Anytime you take a tank and drop it down a tier and make it premium, albeit new to the gun a little bit, you really can't go wrong with this vehicle. Next up, SU-100Y. This is a brutal tank in every sense of the word. It's a funky vehicle that actually has less penetration on its gold rounds, but more alpha damage, which can really be annoying when you're in a bad matchup, but so good when you're in a good one. I still wouldn't recommend this vehicle for 5,000 bonds, but if you're a collector and you want to have something a little bit funky, why not go for it? Panzer IV-S. This used to be a very special tank that I think you had to participate in events or like buy funky World of Tanks gamer mouses to be able to get. Now you just need it for 5,000 bonds. It's decent. It's a decent medium tank. What more is there to say? The problem with the vehicle is that its camo rating isn't great, and it doesn't really feel like its alpha damage truly impacts its opponents. I think there are better ways to spend bonds inside the bond store. Like the TOG. Oh my word. If you don't have a TOG, you got to get a TOG. This is honestly the best way to spend 4,000 bonds. It is probably the most healthy tank in the game tier for tier. You can get like 1,800 hit points in a TOG. It's ludicrous at tier 6, and it has preferential matchmaking, so you never have to meet tier 8s, which is delicious. The TOG is just such a majestic tank. It's so slow, it really is. But that means you don't ever have to stop to aim, right? Because you're kind of already fully aimed while you're just driving along. My big recommendation for the TOG is get yourself a turbo and a durability device, and then either a gun rammer or vents, depending on your choice on the TOG. But you must use a durability and you must use a turbo, and the best turbo that you can find to get on the TOG. Because if you put a Bond turbo on the TOG with the driver skill engineer, you're actually going at 21, which is quite nutty. You're going 50% faster than you otherwise would do if you weren't using the features inside World of Tanks. TOG's about as much fun as you can have. Get a couple, go in with your mates, have a laugh, and just don't take the game too seriously. And for a lot of you out there, that'll be the best way to spend your bonds. Next up, the Panzer IV Hydro. This is the same as the Panzer IV Schmaltern, really. I'd never recommend it. Why? It's just a rare tank that's here for the sake of it to try and drain some bonds off your account. T-34S as well at tier 5. This is a very strong tank at tier 5. But would I recommend it for 1,500 bonds? No, not really. I feel that these bonds are very precious, and I feel that you should be spending them on things that will either make differences, truly give you a different playstyle, or alternatively give you some really good currency, or even things that you can use in the more competitive versions of the game, like maneuvers. Finally, for the current list of tanks, the M10 RBFM. It's a very good tank, but I swear Wargaming have given this out for free so much, I'd be very surprised if anyone doesn't already have an M10 RBFM. But if you don't, and you want to play a low-tier tank destroyer with a fully traversable turret that's just going to sit there and whack its binoculars or coated optics with a good crew up and just snipe very conveniently, and you're not confident enough to play the high tiers, yeah, you can do all right, but it's a reward vehicle and not a premium as far as I can tell, so you're not going to be able to make yourself very many credits. Okay, so now let's talk about all of the new things that are coming to the Bond store, again on the 3rd of September at 9 AM. Firstly, Tiger Mouse. I really want to love the Tiger Mouse, but I don't. It's a good tank, but I have these games where it just frustrates the living daylights out of me. So much so, I have now put a experimental tier 3 durability device on the mouse, the Tiger Mouse that is, because of how much it loses its engine. But frustratingly, the vehicle, even when you improve the durability of the engine, it doesn't stop the fires from happening. And so you get set on fire so much in this vehicle. That's less of a problem now if you use the fire extinguisher skill on your radio operator and you've got it at 100%, which I thoroughly recommend you would do if you do end up buying a Tiger Mouse. But for a lot of people, you might actually want to just use the automatic fire extinguisher on this vehicle purely to try and reduce the engine fire chance. And I think automatic fire extinguishers are an expensive way to play World of Tanks, as I usually try and take manual ones because my reactions are all right? No judgment here anyway. So all in all, with the Tiger Mouse, it sounds like such an exciting tank. A tiger, a mouse. Oh my word, it must be the ultimate premium. Get it for 11,000 bonds. And I still think it's a really good pick inside the bond store. When I'm looking at maybe getting like an SU-130 PM for 10,000 or a Tiger Mouse for 11, I'd rather get the Tiger Mouse. Credit income will be boosted significantly for tier 9. So if you're a good enough player to be able to play there, go for it. And you'll be making your bonds back, albeit very, very slowly. If you were to fill out the bonds and you capped it out at 100, you could pay for your Tiger Mouse back in 2 years. But that'll be about 20 games a week for 2 years to pay back for your Tiger Mouse. Now, if any of you are sitting on the fence thinking, should you either get the Tiger Mouse or should you get the WZ-114? It's hard for me to answer that because I haven't played the buffed WZ-114 with its better statistics yet. But as it stands right now, the Tiger Mouse is better. The 114 is slightly behind, but I think that it's going to become at least on par with the Tiger Mouse, maybe even a little bit better than the Tiger Mouse because of its flexible gun depression next patch. Either way, you can't go wrong, in my opinion, if you're a capable player who can play at tier 9 with the big boys, with the big tanks, with either of these two premium vehicles. Now for one of the most popular tanks in the game, the SU-130 PM. But it's just a solid tank destroyer. It's so comfortable, so convenient with the turret. It's very sneaky as well, way more sneaky than the Scorpion, so you will be able to just sit there and dump 520 alpha damage shells on your opponents. The thing I will say about the SU-130 PM is that while it has a really good top speed, its engine power feels very lackluster. And so getting the best turbo that you absolutely can on this vehicle, or maybe if you don't have a good turbo, even using grousers to try and improve the mobility more than, but you'll have to sacrifice the reverse speed if you drop the turbo to use grousers, it can make it feel a bit better. The SU-130 PM as well is so frustrating with how the gun feels and how it handles, and I often missed so many shells in this tank that ends up exasperating me compared to when I play other vehicles. Still, strong tank. I recommend the SU-130 PM for those tank destroyer players out there who want to maybe not make the plays so much themselves, but to try and support their team, and they're happy with a bit of a slower play style. Next, the CS-52 LIS. This is just a solid medium tank. It's just an all-rounder, really. It's very similar to a T-44-100. It's got, I believe, 7 degrees of gun depression, 320 alpha, really good gold rounds as well, which if you're willing to spend some credits to be able to make some credits, you can't go wrong with this vehicle. It's just a decent tank. I guess the problem with the vehicle is that it doesn't really feel very special at anything. But sometimes just being well-rounded and honest within your all-round capacity of those strengths, it can stand out. Now, would I rather have a CS-52 LIS or a 122 TM? I'd say the incredible players out there might be able to farm harder in a CS-52 LIS, but I still think that the incredible players will do just as well, if not better, with regards to win ratio in a 122 TM. I'd say for at least 80% of the player base, you'll do better in a 122 TM. But there will be that kind of like 1 in 5 player out there who really wants to just outplay and outgrind their opponents, who maybe would try and pick the CS-52 LIS instead. But you know what? You could get both, right? Play them back to back and then have that medium tank duo of grinding. Fulfill all of your credit dreams. Okay, IS-2 for 6,000 bonds. Is that the vehicle that they're giving to all of the new players? Maybe they're putting that inside the bond store so that players can't complain that they didn't get the IS-2. So I guess what Wargaming are suggesting is that by putting the IS-2 inside the bond store, that they can't complain. But I just realized, actually, new commanders are not getting the IS-2. They're getting the IS-2 shielded. as a reward, which is already inside the bond store. So you know what? My opinion is exactly the same about the IS-2 Shielded as this. If you want to just collect tanks for bonds, go for it. I just feel like Wargaming are maybe trying to take bonds out of the system by adding these tanks in, trying to turn people into collectors. I wouldn't bother with the IS-2 personally. Next, the M4 A1 FL10. This is an auto-loading French premium sniper kind of tank, but I'd say now that the Cromwell has been buffed, it will absolutely destroy this vehicle. One of the most frustrating things about this tank is it only has 135 alpha damage like the Cromwell, but has a 1.75 intraclip reload and then a substantial reload of 10 seconds after it's delivered its 4 shells. With the gun depression problems of 6 degrees, I really can't recommend this tank. I don't think it's a good one, but there will be some players out there who do play it well. And now for one of the weirdest additions to the bod store, the Turan 3 Prototype Push. This tank's hilarious because back in the day it used to have so little ammunition that many players would actually run out mid-battle, let alone towards the end of the battle. However, Wargaming have since buffed it a few times. Again, for 2,000 bonds, I wouldn't bother. I put it in the same region as like the Schmaltern, really. That its alpha is just a little too low for it to be enjoyable personally for me. Its camera rating not quite good enough. Its speed not quite good enough. But if you're looking for a slower, dependable vehicle for tier 5 German premium medium, go for it. That's up to you. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was my extensive look at the 6 new vehicles that are going inside the bond store, as well as all of the what feels like about 40 different tanks that are already in there. Really hope this video was useful for you in making a decision on what to spend your bonds on. If it was, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down, and let me know in the comments down below, what are you going to spend your 15,000 bonds on and why? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.